For more on this, let's bring in Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, as well as Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst. Gianno, let me start with you. This is a nail biter, and it's got a lot of people I know who are friends at odds with each other.
Yeah, 100%. We saw that recently. There's people taking sides in this particular race, but you got to keep in mind, just in 2024, Donald Trump carried this county, Congress, this congressional district in Kentucky, by 60% of the vote. He won all 21 counties. And now we see that this late momentum that's come in is really impact Massie to the point that he may actually lose this things with this Trump endorsement and his late momentum.
You know, Joe, President Trump saying that Massie's not a libertarian. Certainly, that's where, you know, the conflict comes in, I think, with a lot of folks on the right. I think others, though, are just saying he kind of puts the notion of the perfect being the enemy of the good. And there are so many things that the GOP want to achieve, and he's been a roadblock against.
Oh, yeah, at every turn, Charles. And by the way, that's your greatest presentation ever. I love that suit. Tell me, again, where I get that, and I'll be wearing it by Monday. Look, Thomas Massie, let's put it this way, was one of 9 votes in Congress that voted against funding for the Iron Dome in Israel. Without that, Israel probably would cease to exist, given all the missiles that are fired from all sides, from Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, all funded by the Iranians. And that vote still passed 420 to 9, and Massie was one of those 9. And he also voted against the big, beautiful bill last year. That would have resulted in far higher taxes with the Trump tax cuts expiring. It would have been a huge win for Republicans. So that's what many Republicans who support the president are asking. Whose side are you on when you keep voting with the squad against Republicans and this president in terms of his agenda? And the problem with Massie is he never offers a tangible solution or anything based in reality. It is no, no, no. Okay, what would you do? Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm just standing on principle. You can save this tape, Charles. He will lose tonight when the results are tallied. That I do know.
Gianno, there's another subplot here, too, and that's a divide between young and old, right? So a Siena poll, 24% of GOP, 18 to 34, only were sympathetic with Israel, whereas 52% over 35 were. Same thing with America First. The younger folks out there are buying into it. Younger Republicans, 51% say, yeah, they like America First. They like the idea of whether you call it isolism or not, they believe in it. So do you believe that's also sort of on a ballot here as well?
Absolutely. That's always going to be a question, an open question. We do know that younger folks really have brought into the Republican movement by way of the most recent election with President Donald Trump, RFK Jr., and many others that jumped in, Elon Musk, et cetera, that brought these folks into the fold. And these were people who normally and traditionally do not vote for Republicans. So now the question is, especially with movements like Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk's movement, which ushered in a lot of those young folks, Joe Rogan's and the like, what happens now? Because there is a question, I think, for a lot of people on affordability, whether you're thinking about Kentucky, Georgia, or anywhere else, New York, especially in these not red states, but these liberal states, Illinois, Chicago, et cetera. So what do you do? How do you ensure that these individuals are a part of the movement and they continue to move candidates that support America First and conservatism forward?
So, Joe, let's pick up on that article in the New York Post on the GOP's surprising unity and helping President Trump against tough odds. There's only a 6-seat advantage. After tonight, do you think maybe that unity will be even stronger, the momentum even stronger going into the midterms?
Yeah, I think so, Charles. And look, I mean, the president just endorsed Ken Paxton in Texas, and the old saying is put a fork in him, he's done. And we're talking about John Cornyn. So I think we saw it in Indiana. We saw those state senators oppose redistricting efforts in a very deep red state where it's absolutely justified. And all 5 got primaried and all 5 lost. We saw it, obviously, with Cassidy down in Louisiana as well. One of the first senators ever to lose a primary because Donald Trump supported the other candidate. So in the end, yeah, if you go against Donald Trump, he's going to endorse somebody else. Turn out the lights. The party is over because this is not the Republican Party anymore. It's the MAGA Party, and that's just the way it goes.
Gianno, on the political side, President Trump saying he was just an hour away from renewing attacks in Iran. Certainly, the market's stalling here a little bit. Bond yields are soaring. Oil, gasoline prices are going up. It feels like the clock is ticking on the economic agenda or the economic message for President Trump.
I mean, this war has certainly had an impact. I think there's no doubt about that. When we think about gas prices, I know a lot of people have been saying how bad things are, but we also can keep in mind that things were higher in Joe Biden's second year of his first term. So prices have come down under Donald Trump. We know that. I think rates are going to come down, which is going to be a very helpful factor. But yeah, we need to find out what's going to happen with the war. Is it turning down? Because this midterm election could very well be impacted by it,
right,
as a lot of conservatives do not like war. They don't want to see war. But we certainly don't want to see Iran have a nuclear weapon and hurt our allies in that region or us.
You know, Joe, to that point, though, a lot of folks don't like war, but also this sort of, President Trump has given Iran a chance. Come to the table. Mm-hmm. They've come with these bogus deals. They don't work. They're buying time. They've been able to successfully do that in the past. Do you sense that maybe there's a greater sense of urgency? Let's get this over with now so that we can move on, because the economy, outside of these hiccups, has an amazing wind in its back right now.
Oh, yeah, big time. And the only thing, though, that people really, if we want to just make it a very, very simple thing for voters to understand, if they see gas above $4.50 or even above $4, ask Jimmy Carter, ask any president that had to endure high gas prices. It's a tax on everyone. And as a result, you could redistrict all you want in places like Tennessee and Louisiana and Florida and Texas. If gas prices are still high the way they are now, in November, when people go to the polls, Republicans are going to have a very hard time holding the House. That means you have House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, and that means Donald Trump will be in impeachment hearings in perpetuity. So, yeah, that's the whole ball game right now. Get Iran resolved, get the Strait of Hormuz open, yes, get gas prices down. If that doesn't happen, Republicans are going to have a serious, serious problem, Charles.
All right, before we go, Joe's made a definitive call about these elections. Gianno, I didn't hear one from you. What do you think?
Well, I mean, honestly, we saw what happened with Bill Cassidy, Senator Bill Cassidy, last week. So my money's on anybody that Trump is supporting in these races. And when we look at the numbers in and of itself, Kentucky is Trump country. So it's likely whoever Trump put his money on, honestly.
All right. Gianno Caldwell, Joe Concha. Guys, thank you both very much. I'll shoot you an email with where you can get the suit. All right, coming up, the Clarity Act, folks, heading for full Senate vote after passage out of the Banking Committee. Senator Cynthia Lummis tells us about her push for digital asset regulation next.